Mics are on.
All right, folks. All right, folks. We're going to start our meeting, October the 8th. Call this meeting to order. Item 2, I need a motion to adopt the amendment with an amendment to the agenda. I know that sounds, I can't say that again. I had to write it down.
Motion to adopt the amended agenda.
Second amendment.
The second amendment.
I need an amendment.
And it's item 6.6, and Chief Putney, would you?
So, Mayor, I need you to amend the amended agenda and add an item 6.6, which is the Haggerty Consulting Incorporated proposal for consulting services. That's been added back.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
There you go. Cyclone.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. We're all looking forward to being here, I know. Our scripture for today is from the book of Isaiah, and I think it's very appropriate. So feed the hungry and help those in trouble. Then your light will shine out from the darkness, and the darkness around you will be a light as day. And there's another part of the Bible when Jesus confronts Peter and asks him, said, "Peter, do you love me?" And Peter said, "Well, sure." And he said, "Well, then feed my sheep." So this was so important that Jesus told Peter this 3 times. And thankfully, a lot of people have stepped forward and are feeding Jesus' sheep as we speak. Ordinary citizens, companies, churches, all have and are answering that call to feed the hungry and help those in trouble. You've got a lot of well-known people like Mrs. Dolly Parton. When she gave $1 million, then her companies matched her and gave another $1 million. So this just goes on and on and on like that, and we're so thankful that this is happening. And we've seen everything from mule trains and the Cajun Navy, the helicopters, and folks just going out in the Jeep and fill them up with supplies and take them as far as they can and dump them there and to help them out. But our world, for the folks here in the mountains, came crashing down on 27th of September. Helene forever changed the lives of several thousands of people. And it has to be especially frustrating for the old line mountain folk because they always have taken such pride in never asking anyone for anything, any kind of help. So now, but they have no choice but to receive the help, and yet they are the first to help their neighbors. I heard Dr. Phil on TV a couple of nights ago was talking about he came with some charity to try to offer food and help and counseling. And he said after meeting with some of these people, said he left with a greater feeling that he had been helped by these people more so than he had helped them. So I think we tell a personal story or run into somebody that has helped you, or people just helping one another, for which we are. I don't know, it's no words to explain it. Just gives you a sense of pride, makes you glad to be a part of this. We here on Beech Mountain, of course, took a pounding, of course, but how blessed we are compared to those poor folks in the lower elevations. We've witnessed firsthand of pouring out of love and neighbor helping neighbor. I'm, of course, of an old guy that lives alone. Several times a day, different neighbors would come by and check on me and bring food. And they taught me something important. I always had a problem. I always had, and most of us, my generation, same thing. You don't have any problem giving. But when you start receiving, for some reason that's difficult. I don't know why, but it is. But they taught me a lesson there. In fact, one of my neighbors came by. He kind of went a little overboard. I had my phone charging in my Jeep there, and this good neighbor, didn't want me wasting my gas, so he turned my Jeep off and let my phone hang there, and he should remain nameless, so. Because he might shoot. That's nobody hard. But during the height of all this stuff, first story, my sons wanted to come get me and take me to their home. And I said, nah. I said, boy, I never had it so good as I've had it here this past week. I'm probably going to have to go on a diet when this is all over. But I also heard Franklin Graham talking the other night about Samaritan's Purse and how great the response from these volunteers have been and continue to be, helping make it possible to do what they do and to continue to. He said that in spite of the food, shelter, cleanup and all, the one thing that they offered that was so important was hope. And he went on to say that, this disaster, and it'll take a long time to recover, but we will. And with God's help, we'll get through it. And God has showed us what is possible when neighbors help neighbors. And as far as I'm concerned, it's great pride, and I'm so thankful that God led my wife Karen and me here to Beach Mountain 30 years ago. And it's an honor for me to live here and call all the wonderful people in this town my friends. Would you bow your head, please? Lord, we thank you so much for letting us be here today. We thank you for blessing us. We pray, Lord, you'll be with our friends that are less fortunate in other parts of the mountain. And we ask that you'll bless all the first responders and all the volunteers and all the poor people that are hurting so. And we ask, Lord, that you continue to bless the United States of America and bless Beach Mountain. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I like to change things up and start our meetings off on a positive note rather than making comments at the end. I want to recognize the folks that endured this storm, our town residents, the visitors who stayed here, regardless what your position is on whether you're a full-time resident, part-time resident, but the town really rebounded on this. We have a long ways to go. I like to think that our glass is half full, and we're getting a little bit more water in our glass each day. And we have to remain positive. I've heard some negative comments, and we don't need any negative criticism. This is the time that we need to come together, work together, and help our neighbors out. But the folks that stayed here during the storm, that didn't have power, still may not have power, didn't have water, the resiliency was remarkable. And I commend all that was a part of this. So I got a few thank yous, and Chief Putney doesn't like to be recognized, but during this entire process, which we're a long ways from getting to the end, but Chief Putney, he led this process with everything. This was the command center. Chief Putney was here. Our police chief was sitting where Emily is, and this was kind of the hub of our command center. And the leadership that he illustrated was just remarkable. So I think he was frustrated that it wasn't happening fast enough, and that's his personality. And I told him that at the end of the day, look at the positive results that you made. So Chief Putney, thank you for everything that you've done.
Thank you.
So Chief Putney didn't do this by himself. He had citizens of the town that chipped in, the town employees that worked countless hours, the town employees who slept on cots and slept on the floor away from their family for 3 or 4 days at a time. So between the town employees and the fire department, TDA. I'd like to recognize RC Excavating for putting our road back together in 2 days rather than us having to wait 60 days. That was a big deal, what Robbie Cavanero and his crew did. I think he even had help from one of our councilmen. I don't want to give him too much credit. But I think Art was driving the truck.
I didn't kill anybody.
So, you know, and that's kind of the difference between private enterprise and the government. Private enterprise, we don't have a choice but to make it happen. And his crew made it happen. A friend of mine is Executive Vice President of Lowe's, Russ Householder. And I called Russ Sunday morning to see if we could get some generators. And before I even got it out, he was like, "How many generators do you need, Wagner?" So myself and another friend from Hickory drove to one of their distribution centers, picked up generators for the needy, the ones that needed it for medicine, and then folks that required a generator to help assist with the town. Also, I'd like to recognize our North Carolina rep, Ray Pickett. Ray was up here multiple times assisting Chief. What do you need? What can we do? I think Chief Putney told him what we needed, but what we received was fairly limited, which was disappointing in our state, but I don't want to be a Monday morning quarterback. But again, the services and everything that occurred came from the town. It did not come from outside of Beech Mountain. I'd like to recognize Commissioner Braxton Eggers. Braxton was up here multiple times working with Chief Putney and just seeing, you know, what do we need. And, you know, it was nice when you have your representatives that are actually up here. They may not be able to do a whole lot, but at least them being visible, you know, it lets us know, lets me know that that they do care about our community. Virginia Fox and our Mayor Charlie Sellers. Charlie is the mayor of Blowing Rock. He reached out to me 3 days ago and said, "What can we do for Beech Mountain?" I think our needs were covered, but I was able to go by their command center, and the amount of generators and gasoline and just all the necessary essentials they had in Blowing Rock. It was overwhelming. So this morning I took several truckloads to Elk Park Fire Department, which was, as many of you folks know, that area was just devastated. It's really sad and heartbreaking when you see the destruction that's in Elk Park and in our surrounding areas as well. But also, I want to thank Philip Barrier. He's our county manager of Avery County, Jimmy Accardi, the club, and the resort for feeding our community. They did this at no charge, so it was nice that we had a place to go to for a warm meal. Go there for lunchtime, go there for dinner time, and I don't know how many days, Jimmy, we did this like 4 days maybe. So, you know,
3,000 pizzas.
Wow. Excellent.
I wonder how many growlers the resort gave away. So, a lot of folks, actually the brewer's here now.
Just over 50.
Okay. Also, so thank you, Jamie, for what you and your family did.
Thank you for the diapers.
So Jamie tried to give me some, I didn't realize, I'd forgotten how expensive diapers were. And Jamie tried to give me some money. I said, no, that's okay. But after I paid for them and got the formula, I'm like, I should have taken this money. Because it wasn't cheap. Also, from a safety standpoint, we've had some strangers that have been lurking around Beech Mountain. I don't think there's been any looting, but there has been in some of our neighboring communities. And I urge you that if you see a car at your neighbor's house or anywhere on Beech Mountain that you don't think belongs here, they have a U-Haul, they're hauling furniture out, or just something doesn't look right. It has happened here on Beech Mountain before, and we're not immune to it. So let's be a good neighbor and keep an eye on our neighbor's property or, anyone's property if he sees something that doesn't look right. There are a lot of rumors going around about Banner Elk and how the state took over Banner Elk. The state didn't take over Banner Elk. I've heard that they lost their water department. They haven't lost their water department. They lost 2,000 feet of sewer lines that goes to the water department. I spoke to Nancy Owen today, and I don't know how she did it, but she personally has raised $250,000. And they have these funds that they're going to distribute to the needy. There's a lot more money coming in. She was able to she has some contacts at Walmart, corporate, at Bosch. Bosch brought up a truckload, 53-foot load of dishwashers and washing machines and dryers. So I haven't spoken to the folks at Banner Elk, but I wanted to hear firsthand, from the powers that be, how are you guys doing? I feel for the restaurants because they told them initially it was going to be 60 to 90 days before they got water. And again, private enterprise, Mike Egger said, I'm going to make it happen in less than 30 days. So, I feel for these guys financially with the financial impact that they are taking, a beating on. Banner Elk Cafe, less employees, 137 people. And he wants to make sure that his employees are taken care of. I think I covered it all. Also, I met this gentleman, Ben Kravitz. He's the gentleman that's been cutting trees here on Beach Mountain. It's got that massive machine. It's got the knuckle boom on it. It's got a saw on it. And I was talking to him today, and he said, Widener, do you think I can stay? Do you know of anyone that I can use their home and stay? And I'm like, you can stay at our house. And I said, but let me tell you, I'm going to have Beach Mountain Police come to my house 10 o'clock tonight. And 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, do a welfare check, because I don't know you, but I don't know if I want to have a stranger in my house. But he seemed to be a nice guy, and I just think that not only what I've done, but what all of you folks have done, opening up our doors to those in need. All right, so public comment. We have one person that'd like to speak. This is a time for public to address their elected officials on issues not on the agenda. The town council is interested in hearing your concerns. However, speakers should not expect council to take action or deliberate on your comments. Ms. Harrison. If you'll state your address, please. Your address?
My address, yes. 126 Village Cluster Road.
Okay.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want to say, if you're going to be in a disaster, this is the best place to be. And I'm really amazed at everybody up here. This is an amazing community. I lost my house in the same hurricane in Florida right before it came up here. And the last news I got was my house was full of water and then lost power, like we all did. But I came up to the town hall when I was able, hitchhiking, because couldn't get out like none of us could. And I just stood there by the window as there was a long line of people asking the same questions. And there was just a very tired fellow behind that window trying to calm everybody and answer the questions and in a very, very patient manner. And I thought, well, he needs help. So I started writing down the answers he was giving and posting them in the windows so people don't keep asking the same thing. And then I called a little group of people. I made an announcement. I'll gather people up and tell them what's on the list that I heard from the town hall so they don't keep forming a line there. So I just want to suggest we have a bulletin board, because anytime we lose power, we can't get out information. And there were so many tourists who were confused, didn't know, their GPSs didn't even work. And there was a lot of, I think the most important thing for the people is information. And I'd like to volunteer as a go-between, if y'all ever need my help, to gather people up and just talk to people and tell them whatever you need me to tell them, because you all have so much on your plate, so much to do. And I'm happy to do that. I also think it's a good idea if we have a town bulletin board. Because if we lose power like this, people might lose pets, they might miss a person, and they need a centralized place where they can put information and the town can put information. So people, if they can get to it, they have an idea of what's going on and just a centralized area for comfort, psychologically, mentally. And I'm happy to offer that in any which way I can. I'm happy to organize that, and I just wanted to let y'all know. So thank you for all that you all did. You're amazing. This is an amazing town. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6, the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Well, didn't we just, I'll go with discussion in a minute.
Oh, I was with you. I was
Second.
second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I mean, this 6.6 we just added, why is that under the consent agenda?
Chief?
Because I thought it'd be quicker.
Okay.
He explained it. Well, that's
Can we
okay.
go
Well-
by numbers? Do you mind explaining the canine part of the?
That's under
consent?
new, that's under,
Was that new
that's
business?
new business.
Oh, I missed that, sorry.
So 6.6 I added, that was on your original agenda.
Right.
And it was pulled off because the state of North Carolina deemed it to be a conflict of interest. The Haggerty Consulting Firm has a pending contract with the state to do the entire state. And when we reached out to get ahead of the curve, the state in their infinite wisdom stepped in and told Haggerty Consulting that it would be a conflict and they had to withdraw the proposal. So in talking with the town attorney and a number of other people, I got a phone call just about 20 minutes prior to the council meeting that the state had reconsidered and that the person in charge of that decision had changed their mind and the town of Beech Mountain could now proceed. So I asked that it be put back on the agenda. This is Haggerty Consulting is someone we've used before for our Lake Coffee funding project. Their expertise is actually in disaster management. We desperately need help in the FEMA process in making sure that we get all of the millions of dollars that are coming to the town. So the reason it's on your agenda is, and there's a packet in your program that explains everything, all the pricing and everything, is I believe this is desperately needed to protect the town's interest as we move forward, because a mistake today, not today, but a mistake early on could cost us millions of dollars in the future, and don't want to do that. So we were able to get that worked out 20 minutes before council, and I asked that it be added to the consent.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would also add that Haggerty Consulting's contract is eligible for reimbursement. FEMA reimburses 75% of costs under a major disaster declaration for these administration services, but the state of North Carolina has previously made the commitment that they would reimburse the other 25% to a municipality. So if everything meets the approvals of federal and state governments, the costs associated with the Haggerty Consulting are eligible for 100% reimbursement to the town related to that expense.
Well, that's even more of a plus
Yeah.
on our benefit. You know, keep in mind that the Haggerty Group was very instrumental in the $15 million that we got for the Lake Coffee project. And I think having these guys tied in with Beech Mountain has definitely been an asset. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Consent agenda passes. Old business, item 7.1. This is the public hearing for consideration of paving Beech Mountain Parkway. I'd like to make a motion due to the current situation we have on Beech Mountain, I'd like to make a motion to council this public hearing, and we'll bring it back up either next year's budget or just down the road.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to cancel the public hearing, or do you want to postpone it to a later meeting?
I want to cancel it.
Yes, sir.
I need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. 7-1. New business, item 8-1, the police K-9 proposal. I need a motion to accept the K-9 proposal.
So we,
Need a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
oh, come on, bring the dog.
I would like to bring the dog in.
We're gonna get there.
Sergeant here.
So this is a, in my opinion, this is a big deal. And I told Sergeant Tyler right before the meeting, I wanted to get him stirred up. I said we had 2 council members that were in favor of the dog and 3 that weren't. Which I think maybe everyone is excited that we're gonna get a dog, but we'll see. So Sergeant, you wanna introduce your,
Your partner.
yeah.
This is Negan. He's about 75% bid in line with his search and rescue command. A little over a year old.
Ice cream.
Mayor and Council, this dog is valued at $10,000, was donated to the police department, to the town of Beech Mountain. Is a scent dog, it's not a bite dog. It is used for search and rescue. It also is a narcotics scent dog as well. Somebody out there. We talked about it briefly at last council meeting, and this is a big improvement to our town. We had discussed about a big policy change. The policy is not in your packet. Some of it is protected by public records. The police chief would like to keep some of that private. I can share that with you individually. But it's been through legal review, it's been through insurance review, and we'd like the town council to accept this donation and put this asset to use in our town.
Well, let's see if we can get him to work. Do we have any potential candidates in here that he can stay?
I think his indicator is sitting, right?
Tyler.
Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, Tyler, does this give you your dog?
Yes.
Or you good?
Yeah.
And have you trained with it already?
Yeah.
Light out. Good.
He's not finished it, narcotic stuff. He'll only be trained on meth, heroin, cocaine, and fentanyl. Those are the only 4 things that he'll be trained
But is he a cadaver dog
in.
or?
No, just
Just,
live. So somebody walks off, gets lost.
he can send him down?
Yeah, the article search, and then I can send him out. He'll do that sort of tracking, but nothing like apprehension or anything like that. Eventuation or something like that, or kid that was looking off the house.
I think for search and rescue, it's fantastic.
Will he be with you when you're on duty?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Mayor and Council, to clarify, the dog belongs to the town of Beech Mountain and is assigned to the sergeant. And the sergeant is responsible and is compensated for maintaining the dog. And the town will purchase the equipment for the sergeant's car and the vet bills and that type of thing. So I want to make that clear. It's assigned to the sergeant. He has a relationship with the dog, is how that works, but this is an asset of the town of Beech Mountain.
What's the life expectancy of his performance or his line of duty?
It depends on, I mean, if there was some sort of health issue to come up, but, I mean, he could easily work up until 9, 10.
How old is he now?
He turned a year of age.
Oh, wow. Good.
He's still pretty young.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Same sign, folks. All right,
Tyler, good luck.
thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, he stopped there. What was that about?
Some nervous people in here.
All right, item 8.2. I need a motion for a public hearing on proposed amendments to kitchens and guest suites.
Cancel.
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 And
Keep reading.
This is a postponement.
I'm sorry. I'm correct.
Motion to cancel?
Motion to cancel.
Cancel or postpone?
No, I'd like you to postpone it.
Postpone?
Motion.
Motion to postpone
November.
it.
Yes, sir.
Till November
The
12th.
difference would be whether you have to pay for re-advertising it. if you-
Gotcha,
if you
then
cancel.
postpone.
I'm sorry. Again, item 8.2. I need a motion to postpone the public hearing on proposed amendments to kitchens.
Motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
Would that be to your next meeting, sir? Or do you have
Be at the Chief Putney, but if that's.
We would need to set a specific date, otherwise we have to re-advertise.
Your agenda item has November 12th, 2024. If you would just adopt that date.
Yep,
Motion to adopt?
okay. Any discussion on November the 12th? Everyone good with that? You're not gonna be here? So we have
I'll be in the Caribbean.
We have one council member that will not be in attendance on November the 12th, but we still have us four, make sure everyone's here. Does that work?
Works for me if it works for you.
Works for me.
It's public hearing.
Yeah, he's gonna be on a boat. Catamaran. All right, so I need a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So November the 12th. Item 8.3. Same thing. I need a motion to postpone the public hearing for the off-street parking and loading.
Motion?
And it'll be the same, we were scheduled this for November the 12th.
Correct.
Did I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so those two items will be added to November the 12th, item 8.2 and 8.3. Okay, so most of you know that we've got a 5-minute limit to those that want to speak. And Chief Putney, you're up.
5 minutes?
5 minutes, you love it.
I'm good. Let me hit the highlights. We got like 7 pages here. I'll cut it back. Mayor, council, and the public, first item I want to report is on the ski loft project. It's kind of, behind us now. That was successfully completed early. We turned over the project to the community on the 27th of September at 5 p.m., which was early. If you recall, the temporary construction easement had a September 30th at 5 o'clock. So my hat's off to the contractor, M&M Construction or Eggers Construction, Mountain Electric, Spectrum, and Skyline. That plan came together, worked very well. If you get a chance, drive up there. That's a spectacular neighborhood now. We chose to pave it early because we had a good weather window. Then it changed. And we intend to finish the final paving before the cold weather sets in. So ski loft for the legal piece is complete. We have some finished work to do, and we'll be doing some work. We had to remove some encroachments that were decks or stairs or things like that, and those are continuously being rebuilt. We'll have some seating to be done next spring, but the bulk of the work is done. It's a brand new set of infrastructure up there, and it went very well. So we'll check that off the box. The rest of my report is on the town's response to the storm. First thing I can report to you that Buckeye Lake is full.
Full of what?
The drought's over. However, it is full of debris, and we have an issue there. A substantial amount of material was deposited into the lake. It displaced a substantial amount of water, and we currently are issuing an RFQ, request for qualifications, for an engineering firm to assess the damage. We also have to have the dam assessed as well as the spillway. The water level reached within 4 feet of the top. The spillway functioned as designed, but we are required to have it inspected. And I also want to have the firm do a damage assessment on the lake, and more importantly, come up with a plan that I can get the state to approve to allow us to excavate the material that's in the lake. So that is out on the street today. And it's, the key now is conservation. We have a far limited amount of surface water in the lake than we had prior to the storm. And everyone knows the issue, why we're building Lake Coffee. So that's not gonna be a quick fix. It will not be inexpensive. And we believe that the FEMA will be able to reimburse the town for expenses to do that because it was directly related to the storm. So I'm gonna go hit some highlights, and if I go too long, just bang your gavel and I'll stop. The event timeline, we're in the 12th day post the event. Seems like a lifetime, but it's really only 12 days. We measured over 20 inches of rain at the fire station. And Mayor, you signed a state of emergency at noon on the 26th of September. That state of emergency became effective. You actually signed it at the potluck dinner. I brought it with me. But that was instrumental in us going forward in receiving our just reimbursement from the government. Without that state of emergency, any expenses until we got that done would have been on the taxpayers' dime. So the impact was great to the town, but I do want to say we are blessed. We've been sending help to other communities very close to us. Fall Creek community on the backside of Beech Mountain, their fire department is devastated. The Buckeye Creek came out of its boundaries and took out their road. They've had no way to move around. So Beech Mountain, although we are heavily impacted, we are blessed. We are on top of a mountain, and that 20 inches of rain went down the mountain very quickly, caused a lot of damage here, but it wound up in the creeks and rivers just adjacent to us. So Banner Elk, Elk Park, Fall Creek, our neighbors were impacted greatly. We had a 100% power outage. Actually, the damage to the substation was minimal, but the feed from TVA to it was taken down. We had severe tree damage, water and sewer line breaks from rushing water and trees falling, pulling up the water mains. So we had no potable water pressure, and we had to issue a boil water notice. The sewer stream crossings were broke literally in half, and raw sewage was flowing into the creeks, and we continue to have sewage problems today, which I'll talk about. And both of our sewer plants were severely overflowed to the point where not only were the buildings flooded, the operational buildings, but the works, the tanks, the digesters, all the things that I didn't really want to know about in a sewer plant overflowed down the creek, and that just was remediated as the water subsided. We have tremendous road damage, mostly at our culvert crossings or where a creek went underneath the road. If you're out and about, you'll know which ones those are. We have a list on our website, and we posted it daily on what roads were impacted. Some are still not passable. This resulted in a severe limit to emergency vehicle access during the height of the storm. We could not respond fire trucks. Fire station number 2 had wires down in front of it. We couldn't get the truck out. We responded, began chainsawing the way out of the fire stations. Our police department was severely impacted, couldn't get around. And our public works people, the people that were here, couldn't operate the equipment to clean the culverts. We just couldn't get around. So it became obvious that our first order of business was to clear paths so that we could get vehicle access. I talked about Buckeye Lake and Shane Park. It's destroyed. So most of Shane Park became part of Buckeye Lake. Everything that we had in Shane Park, including the parking lot, if you've been down there, is been moved and deposited into the lake. The new boat dock, the boats and everything, we've never found those. We assume they're in Watauga Lake. Of critical importance was our town access. As you know, we have 2 main roads to get off the mountain, the Parkway and the paved road out back of Beech Creek. Both of those were impassable. The Parkway had 2 major cuts in it where no vehicle access, even you couldn't jump across, it was that big. And Buckeye Creek at Pinnacle Ridge, where we have the culvert crossing just before Shane Park, was completely removed. There was 20, 30, 40 feet of creek and no road. So what this meant was we had no way to get off the mountain, and we had no way to get help on the mountain. And during that time, we had a number of VMS calls, and there was no way to get to the hospital. And I'll talk about that in a minute. To make matters worse, we had daily rain, misty rain, but fog. And fog impacted our ability to land helicopters. It impacted our ability to do parachute drop, which we had scheduled. So the weather, obviously, the storm was difficult, but the fog, the afternoon fog after the storm was impactful. We had complete communication failure. There was no cell, there was no internet, there was no 911 system. Well, we won't go into that. The state said this, go this way, a hosted system, and this is the best, and it'll never fail. It did. We transferred all of our 911 calls, not that anyone could call 911 to report an emergency, but we transferred them to Watauga Communications, as that was always been our plan. Employees were impacted. We had a limited number of employees available. We had people here. We planned the storm. We kept people at Public Works. And after the impact, that's who, I shouldn't say we were stuck with, but they were stuck here. And I can share with you plenty of stories of your employees who went above and beyond the call of duty. There was no travel access for employees to get to the town to operate equipment and work. I think Daniel told me we had 8 employees here for 3 or 4 days, including himself, that could not speak to their home, their family, couldn't check on their property, and that is very, in a disaster, that's very distressing as an employee, not knowing how your family is, how your property is. And some of our employees live on rivers, and all the reports that we were getting, secondhand, was that the rivers, decimated, people were deceased, and so some of our key staff worked through that, never knowing how their families were, and I think that's important to note. We are limited on skill positions, which we'll reevaluate that as we go forward, but not understanding with the impact of the storm, our people who drive our heavy equipment, our track hose, our sewer and water people, things like that, we were limited, and those skilled position employees couldn't get here, and we couldn't communicate with them. So we put into a plan to go get them via helicopter. We were going to fly a helicopter to their house. I was going to put a Beach Mountain police officer in the helicopter because we couldn't communicate with the employee. Helicopter was going to land. Our police officer was going to go knock on the door and say, "Come with me." I only had to do that to one employee because, well, the weather didn't cooperate, and neither did the federal government. So we had our volunteers, predominantly our volunteer fire department, a godsend. They live on the mountain. This is their home, and they were pressed into service to do quite a few things. So the volunteer fire department was called into action, and they cut trees, cleared power lines, delivered meals. They did quite a bit. We had a road contractor. You mentioned RC Excavating. The good news is he was stuck here with us. The bad news is he couldn't get to his yard, so our crews, mostly through Tim Holland's tree cutting crew that we put together, cut their way out to RC Excavating's yard, got their vehicles, and it became obvious that fixing the parkway was of critical importance to the town. We couldn't, I think at that time we had 6 medical patients, I called them walking wounded, and we were treating them here on the mountain and maintaining them here on the mountain, but we needed to get them off. In fact, we had to air transport in a private helicopter a trauma patient that had a severe injury. There were 3 homes that were severely damaged by wind. They're up on Pinnacle Ridge. The occupants were trapped, and the fire department and the police department rescued those individuals, and those houses are totally damaged. We had a financial problem. We still do. Cash flow was an issue. The payroll impacted us in the middle of a payroll pay period, and we had no communications with financial institutions. So I directed our finance department to just recreate the last payroll so that we could make sure that our employees and their families are all on direct deposit would be paid. So, and that was done, and I know Steve and Rebecca are working diligently to try and reconcile that and fix that. But that's how we dealt with payroll. Our records and reporting, we gave a class to all the employees and the volunteers who are working on how to report properly for FEMA. They're tired of the 214 form. But it's very important that we do that up front, or we risk losing hundreds of thousands of dollars of reimbursement on that particular. I directed that all non-essential purchasing cease. I called it pause. We have an $11 million budget, and so arguably we've got about this time of year we've got about $6 million, give or take, in our fund balance. We've got a number of contractual obligations, which I had to communicate with the town attorney on what abilities we had to delay payment on some of those contracts if possible, but we had to conserve cash, and we still do. The way this works is the town pays for most of things, documents it, and then gets it reimbursed from FEMA. So repairing roads, repairing sewer lines, renting generators, those type of things, that's on our dime until we can properly get reimbursed. So we've paused all expenditures that aren't deemed essential. So we established the EOC, which is an emergency operating center, at 6 o'clock on the 28th. And I just want to acknowledge some people that I stuck in this room far longer than they wanted to. Captain Tim Holland, he's a volunteer on the fire department. He was here every day, all day, most of the night, and he handled rescue, fire, and EMS. Daniel Davis, he handled utilities and public works. This is your public works director. He slept under his desk. He was here for, I think, 5 days, never speaking to the outside world. I was able to fly him home in a helicopter to check on his wife. So I justified it by saying I needed an aerial reconnaissance. So we put him in. I said, on the way home, would you look at Buckeye Creek Road for me? Tim Barnett, our police chief, he was in charge of operations. Steve Smith has handled finance. Preston Yates is doing all our planning, mapping, and damage assessment. And Armando Garcia has been our public information officer, and he manages the distribution point. So that was our staff in EOC, and those folks have done a phenomenal job and continue to do so. We worked on operational periods of 12 hours, 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 at night, and then 7 at night till 7 in the morning. I met with the contractor, and we jointly agreed to a 30-day pause on the construction of Town Hall. We took over the new visitor center and used it, and continue to use that for a distribution point. The county and state emergency operations completely failed. The plan failed immediately. It was quite obvious. We could not communicate. There was no liaison. We couldn't send runners. And part of the problem we have in the town is we're in 2 counties who operate completely separate. 2 counties who had a different idea on how we should be behaving. So they were unable to meet any of our needs, and that became obvious very quickly. So I made the decision that we would work outside the system, and well aware of where the authority for the town comes from, but we could either sit here and wait and do nothing, or we could take some action, and which we did. So, we got some communications. We arranged for an airdrop, but it didn't work because of the fog. But we brought in a Starlink system, we brought in satellite phones, we brought in a Garmin device that no one here could figure out how to work. And we were able to immediately start communicating with the outside world. We hired RC Excavating on the spot, handshake deal. Legal has, I've told the town attorney, he's got to work very hard to keep me out of jail. So that is in writing now, and we held our patience here until we get that road open. So in very short amount of time, Art Beckman, Miller Construction got the Beach Mountain Parkway.
And Gillum.
Gillum Construction. So I tell everybody that calls me, they say, hey, we hear the parkway is damaged. It's the finest road in the western North Carolina mountains. The rest of the roads are not so good. So, that's estimated to be about an $80,000 repair. So we met with DOT. The mayor was very instrumental in getting the DOT supervisor up here, handshake. I'm from the government, I'm here to help, and they've committed to reimburse the town for that expense. So we're in the process of submitting that invoice to the DOT and to get that paid. Let's see, we opened the Beach Mountain Parkway at the 29th at 6 p.m. and there was a line of vehicles fleeing off the mountain to Banner Elk, which had poor roads as well. But Preston Yates sent me a counter of the vehicles leaving the mountain, and it was in the thousands southbound leaving the mountain. So actually that was a benefit, that was a blessing to us. It was fewer people to get power to, get food and water to, and get the utility up and working. We brought in 3 private helicopters. They not only delivered the communications, they brought in some search and rescue teams, and they brought in water and MREs until the FAA put a stop to that. We had weather problems, as I said, at the LZs. That's a landing zone. The large helicopters had to land at Buckeye, and we received massive amounts of water and MREs, and we've been struggling to move those up the mountain. So search and rescue was a primary function. The fire department under Captain Tim Holland and the police department. We were lucky to get a task force 1 from Memphis, Tennessee, and in I think it was 4 days, every residential structure was visited personally and assessed, and we have a map back there of every residential structure. There's a dot on it, and it was ranked 0 to 5 through the FEMA ranking system on visible damage from the outside. And we knocked on the door, and if someone was home, we offered to give them food and water, and moved on. So I can't say enough about those crews. That task force brought in between 60 and 80 people, and Tim Holland and the police department operated that. We had a 100% failure of the utility, which I told you about. We had some generator failures. So we put in requests through the state. I told you that failed for generators. It was to a point where I asked, if I needed something, I asked for it in 3 different places, hoping one of them would get here soon. So eventually I got 3 generators for the same pump. But Councilman Beckman drove to Maiden, I believe, and brought back a generator, pulled this big generator up through all the devastation so that we could hook it up to the pump station. And that is the single reason we got water to the top of the mountain. So everyone needs to know that. And then he did that another time because I'm never one to pass up a good deal, and I needed another generator. I said, Art, can you take another trip?
So what was more important, the generator or the polymer?
We're gonna talk about the polymer. I'm gonna give you credit here. So fire stations 1 and 2 generators failed, of course, And we got generators brought up and put there. And Fred's General Mercantile, it's a private entity, but it's the focal point of our town. This isn't like, we're not in Raleigh, and this isn't the Safeway. This is Fred's Mercantile, and his generator struggled. We repaired it once or twice, and then it failed. So we got another generator to Fred's from the government, and I justified it because it's a distribution point. So at some point in time, I have to take an MRE over there and give it to Fred to hand to somebody. Fuel, this is important. We were unable to source fuel, obviously, and we had pre-planned and we had filled our fuel tanks, and we were sitting pretty with fuel, except our fuel pump system failed, and we weren't able to draw the thousands of gallons of diesel and gasoline that we had sitting there. So Art Beckman's brother is a plumber from New York, and he was stuck on the mountain at Art's house. And he showed up and saved the day. He worked 2 days repiping the system so that we could draw fuel out of the tanks by gravity. So I've thanked him 100 times, but would you please let him know that publicly I thanked him? He's a character.
He's a New Yorker.
He's a New York plumber, and
With a butt crack.
He's a character. So after we got the gravity feed in place, we had a failure of a pipe, of a fitting, and we lost 6,600 gallons of gasoline. And that has been bubbling up in the road. As you drive by, you can smell it, and most of you had called me about it. So that was a failure in a coupling, and by the time we realized it, we actually thought we had been robbed, that someone had stolen the gas, because there wasn't any gas on the ground, but it had seeped through the parking lot and gone underground. So we've notified the state. EPA has been here. They're working with us to mitigate that. But what happened was we immediately had no gasoline, and that was a difficult process. So our Public Works is in charge of fuel, and a person that works over there and also in the fire department, Chrissy Bonestill, took over getting fuel for us and worked magic. When you could not drive a car or a truck, except Art and his generator trailer, to the mountain, she got fuel trucks to come up through Banner Elk and deliver us fuel. We also brought fuel in by helicopter, and we were able to keep the gasoline powered equipment operating. So that's our chainsaws, that's our police cars, that's all of the vehicles that use gasoline. So hats off to Chrissy Bonestill for making that happen. The fire department, so because we had 6,600 gallons of diesel or gasoline leaked, of course the fire department got involved. Again, Tim Holland and his crew somehow came up with like 20 gallons of Dawn dish soap and water, and they had been soaping the spill, and you've seen bubbles in the park. There were probably bubbles there for a month. But that is being mitigated. There's not a hazard. It's an environmental issue, and we'll deal with EPA to take care of that. Our burn rate for diesel fuel was 2,000 gallons a day. That means we had to bring 2,000 gallons a day up the mountain to maintain our fuel supply, and that was difficult. And again, Chrissy Bonestill was instrumental in making that happen. The 2,000 gallons a day was in generators. The water plant was on generator. That's a big generator. We had Public Works on generator. We had our track hose, back hose, everything. But think about 2,000 gallons a day of diesel fuel. And as the power came on, we were able to reduce that burn rate. And Daniel told me today that we're not burning any diesel fuel in generators. It's just equipment, so we're good to go. LP gas, we were unable to get LP gas up the mountain. The generator here at Town Hall runs on LP gas. We had filled all the tanks before the storm, and we were able to maintain that process. Fuel deliveries resumed after road repairs, and I want to note that we are unable to source any fuel from the county or the state, which had been the plan. we had to do it ourselves. Food and water, we established a distribution point at the new visitor center. And Armando Garcia and his crew and volunteers, Janet Villanova, Tracy Sims, I can't name them all, Carol Beckman was there. A lot of people made that work, and we're still handing out supplies. We have diapers if you need them, and they're free.
They're adult diapers, but we have diapers.
We have 1,500 toothbrushes, so if someone is in the need of a toothbrush, we have some next door. We put up our road signs, and what's important is we open the front lobby of Town Hall as a public information center. We had power because of the Starlink that we flew in. We had internet, and we opened the lobby up. There are a lot of people there charging their phones, getting on the internet, that group of people from our visitor center, staff, volunteers, and our staff at Town Hall managed that lobby for public information. There was a distinct need for the public to find out what was going on, what the plans were, and where we were going, and what the issues were. The main issue in the beginning was, when can I get off the mountain, and how do I get off the mountain? So that we changed the broadcast on the AM radio station. I don't know if anybody but myself listened to it. Posted written notices. We got local radio to transmit important information. Updated the website and social media. We had welfare checks. We had a lot of people who were stuck in their home. They could not access a vehicle. They couldn't get out of their homes. We are responsible for Chestnut Falls, which is outside the town proper on a private road, but those people were stuck. So we instituted a welfare check and direct distribution. The police department, the fire department, and that Tennessee Task Force 1 delivered supplies, and we continue to do that today on a regular basis. Mayor, you answered this. I mean, you talked about this, but I do want to note that Virginia Fox called me personally multiple times, asked what we needed. I told her we needed help from the federal government, from FEMA, and her staff has reached back to me multiple times, and I assume a lot of the help that we received afterwards was because of that. Our representative Ray Pickett, who lives in Blowing Rock, came up here bringing supplies and met with myself and the EOC staff, and he was instrumental in getting us some state help, and I believe he was instrumental in smoothing some of the rough roads we had. You mentioned Braxton Eggers called me every day. He's our representative in Watauga Commission. We are in his district, and Philip Barrier drove up here to meet with me to see what we needed. So we did have support. We've cleared the roads. We're still clearing roads. We're trying to fix road crossings. Right now, the primary concern is our sewer system. We need to patch that up, and this morning's briefing, I canceled today's briefing because of the afternoon because of the council meeting, but this morning's briefing from Daniel Davis was that we had another couple days to go, but we were making good progress. I do want to note some of you that helped out. I spoke about Alan cutting trees. He was with me early in the morning when neither one of us could get up the mountain. We cut trees, we pulled wires out of the road, and his wife, Janet Villanova, volunteered in administration, public information, and distribution. Councilman Stanford, you still smell like diesel fuel.
It's in his beard.
He drove the mobile fuel truck because we had so many generators running and we had a fuels problem. He would drive a pickup truck that had 100-gallon tanks on it. He would go to the fuel system, which was gravity fed, and I'm not sure how long it took to fill the truck. But then he would drive around and fuel generators, and he did that day and night. And I don't think anybody knew about that. Also, when I needed a FEMA air damage assessment, he volunteered, and we sent him up in a very small airplane and flew him in a crisscross pattern over the town to do our damage assessment. So I thank you much. Councilman Beckman, you know, you drove the dump truck. I don't know how many loads you hauled, but the public was talking about that yellow truck that you were driving, and the police department had to look the other way.
Saturn, son.
And getting the generators that we spoke of. You also assisted with some roof repairs from our residents as well as our employees, and I appreciate that. Councilman Abernathy, or Mayor Abernathy, there wasn't a task that I had a need for that you didn't volunteer for. You went and picked up 30 generators for the firefighters, and we appreciate that. We had a problem at the water plant. It requires some special chemical, I didn't know this, polymer, and because of the mud in the water we were trying to treat, we were using far more polymer than we had in stock, and we had the polymer in, I believe, in Hickory, and you drove down there in your truck or trailer and loaded that polymer and drove it up here just in time, because Daniel told me that if we only had about 12 hours of operation before we ran out. So the water plant continued to operate because we could not get it delivered. We could not get a truck up here, and you took care of that.
Well, Art always likes making jabs at me, so I asked again, which was more important, the generator or the
Well, for my wife, the generator was far more important. For me, the water plant was the key. But what you do best is your liaison with other officials. You mentioned quite a few that you spoke to, but you did not hesitate to get on the phone and call people that could make a difference for us. I know you've called in a lot of favors. I hope you don't have to pay them back, but that's important.
In addition to what Chief Pudney said, you know, I say that a lot of business is conducted outside of Beach Mountain, and I've been able to establish personal relationships with our local, state, and federal officials, which has been a significant benefit. During this storm, I had received calls from 2 North Carolina senators outside of our district and 2 U.S. congressmen outside of our district and a state judge. And we're kind of blessed that 2 of the North Carolina senators, I guess, and a U.S. congressman from Florida, they have homes here on Beach Mountain. And so they've got some skin in the game.
They wanted you to go check it and see if there's any trees on it.
Possibly. So, Art.
Yeah,
So in saying what Art said, I said, all right, I'll help you out, but you know how politics works out. You help us out. So probably the worst part of it was cleaning out a few refrigerators. But they did have some other items that don't need to be refrigerated that were enjoyable.
Okay, I'm almost done. And to our vice mayor, you were the most important to me because you left me alone. No, seriously. Elected officials in every time that I've been involved in this feel the need to micromanage, and you did not, and I truly thank you for that. I just one anecdotal information, and then I'll be done. We had a dispatcher who was stranded here. She worked 72 hours straight. We didn't have another dispatcher that could get up here to relieve her. She was aware that her home had been destroyed, and she worked here without rest for 72 hours. So my hat's off to her. So where do we stand now? We've signed a notice to proceed with a state debris contractor and a monitoring firm. As FEMA would have it, you hire somebody to pick up the trash, and then you have to hire somebody behind them to monitor that they're picking up the trash. So that is reimbursable as well, but it will come out of our pocket until we get reimbursed. They're in contract negotiations with a private property owner to find a staging location. And what they will do is drive every road in the town with a big truck and pick up all the storm debris. By law, they're only permitted to pick up storm debris on public property, which is the right-of-way of the road. There's a little diagram up here, and Armando has it as well. If that debris is on the town right-of-way when the truck goes through, it's deemed to be public, and FEMA will pay to remove it. If it's in your backyard, they can't go get it. So, you know, word to the wise, get the debris out to the street if you can. I don't know when they're coming, but the contract's been signed and we're putting that together. I'd like them to, you know, wait 2 or 3 weeks so that we can get as much debris as possible. But it's not just one pass. They're here for 60 days at least to clean up our town. So if we have to go multiple passes through the town, we will. Just remember, we can't take debris that's deemed to be private.
Mr. Putney, that's also only on our town roads or public roads that they will pick up from. If you have a private driveway, they will not pick up in front of your house on the private driveway. It has to go out on the right-of-way on the public road. Do you want to talk about separation, or you want me to?
Well, it has to be separated, vegetation and other debris like, you know, rugs, roofs, things like that. If it's in the public right-of-way and separated properly, it'll be picked up. If you get a chance, take a look at that flyer that's up there with the house, and we can make that available. It is online, but make sure that you know how to do that so that it doesn't jam anybody up. Is that good on that?
Yes, sir. I guess clarification is wood debris in one pile, storm debris in another pile, and regular trash has to be disposed of by our regular means. So if you put things in black trash bags or white trash bags and set them on the curb, FEMA does not recognize that as storm debris. They see that as our just regular trash pickup. So if you're pulling out your tables or your bookcases or your trampoline, stack that all together and the debris contractor will be by to pick it up.
And you don't have to put a red flag up.
Is there a
saying.
timeline when this is gonna start?
It's starting. We're in the process of organizing that. I do not have a timeline. They have not negotiated with the property owner as of this afternoon for a spot, so that has not been done. And then they'll, you know, we'll get the word out, but get it out sooner than later. All right, we've issued the RFQs, and the council's ratified this state of emergency, so we've got anything. The last thing I want to say is, and it's important that and this is the nasty part. During this event, I ordered people, employees and volunteers to do things that were well outside their scope of employment, well outside their comfort level. And to make that happen, I made sure that they all knew that there was one person in charge and there was one person to be held accountable, and that's me. So anything that was questionable or was in error or people don't like, it's not the employees or the volunteers. The accountability rests with me. That's the only way we can work. That's the only way we get things done in an emergency. So make sure that when the darts and arrows are thrown, it's not at the people that did the work. It will come to me. I'm the person accountable. You made me responsible. You gave me the authority, and I need you to know that I'm accountable for it. So with that, I'll answer any questions. I've got most of my EOC staff here, so if we have an issue on utility, police, public information that I can't answer, they're here to answer for you. Preston Yates is here for, I believe, for the planning and processing going forward, and Steve is available to talk about finances.
Chief, the cash flow situation. I mean, we're burning cash.
We are.
Right? So how do we not reach the limit of that? How do we get cash to reimburse? How do we continue
We
to
have
operate?
we have some options, which as we go through this, we're only in day 12, so I really don't have a recommendation yet. But we have some options. FEMA has a program that we can do a preliminary damage assessment that we can justify. I mean, it's not just, I've got $30 million worth of damage. And that's what we're working on now. And you can get a pretty quick upfront influx of cash, so to speak, based on your damage assessment. And that's what Preston is focusing on right now. What is the town damage? What are our actual costs? And we can get a disbursement from FEMA. That's my primary objective now. We can obviously reduce expenditures, which we're doing. We can go to the SBA, which is Small Business Association. They have a program just for towns like us. We get a low interest loan based upon what our needs are. And Steve has been delving into that. And then there's the open market that we can go to if we need to. USDA is available, low interest loans, things like that. My focus is to manage this so that we don't have to borrow any money. We simply carry us through and get reimbursements from FEMA. Record keeping is key to this, and the better job we do today, the more money we'll get back and the quicker it'll be. So I said earlier today, an error early on can cost millions of dollars, and we just can't afford to do that. So we're watching the cash flow very, very closely. This is not a good time for the town. So the budget began July 1st, and the town doesn't collect most of its revenue until November, December. So from July 1st to November, December, we're using fund balance to run the town. So the storm hit at the end of September, so we had a number of months where we had negative cash flow, if you will, and we're using fund balance. So it's not a good time. We're not flush with fund balance, with savings. But I'm more pessimistic than the mayor is, and I'm more pessimistic than Steve Smith is, our finance director. We believe we can manage it, but those options are available as we go forward. What I tell my staff is I'm concerned about what I don't know. I don't know what's coming next, and I don't know what we haven't thought of. So we're going to plan for, not the worst, but we're going to plan for that's not going to work. Let's do something else and see where we go. But there's an availability of cash to keep the town floating.
So do you think we should be proactive and go ahead and apply with a low interest loan? So we don't burn through the cash, and that gives us a little bit of cushion and breathing room, and without
We can.
room
We're,
for panic?
well, I'm not going to panic. We're going to manage it and plan this. We're not there yet. We're not to that point. It's not that we're not doing it. It's that analysis hasn't been done. We're not even sure what the damages are to the town. And if we can get to that point, Buckeye Lake is a big issue. We've got to find out that the damage to the utility was extensive. The damage to the roadways was extensive. Now, we can patch roadways relatively inexpensively, but we've got to be able to manage that and plan that. So when we get a better handle on what the costs are, then we'll be able to decide where we go. The small business loan, administration loan is not hard to get for a town. It's not something that it's not like FEMA is out of money. You heard that. So I don't think we have a problem, is what I'm saying.
So hypothetically, if we went the SBA route, and it was going to be a delay receiving the cash for the reimbursement from FEMA, is there a penalty for, let's say the money comes in a month after we receive the money? The money comes in from FEMA a month after the SBA loan. Is there a penalty for early payoff?
No. And quite frankly, the beauty of the SBA loan is that the interest is a FEMA reimbursable expense. So we have an option to make this happen, and we're never going to be whole. We're never going to break even on this. but the impact can be dramatically lessened to the town as we go forward. And all those options are on the table. The first thing we do is cut expenses, stop spending money. I've got to meet payroll. I have some contractual obligations for utility work that's underway to finish the ski loft, pay those, finish town hall. And the town attorney and I have been working on that. So we've got expenses we have debt service that has to be paid. So there's a lot of things that we can't stop, but we can where we can cut expenses, we have. We're hoarding cash.
Thank you.
So I just heard, if you got your property tax statement in the mail, which I did last week, pay it as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Yes.
Exactly what we need to do.
Well, and you didn't get a financial report today for a number of reasons. One, we're impacted by the storm, and the only person who was able to put together a report was the police chief. My hat's off to him. And two, we're in the process of changing our financial reporting software. We're going from Tyler to Edmunds. And when we had that all planned to be together and get you a nice new report and explain it to you on the new format, and when the storm hit, I had to have Steve stop and work on running what we're doing. So next month you'll have a different looking financial report, and you'll see where we're at, and you'll see some revenues coming in. Questions? I know I didn't cover everything.
Covered a lot,
Well, a lot's been done in 12 days by a lot of people. A lot of people.
no doubt.
All right, town council comments. Alan?
Yeah, I just want to say that we truly are a blessed community. If you would have looked around and saw how this community came together, every department up here, we are blessed to have a town manager that actually has so much logistic experience. I mean, he just plowed right through all the things. I don't even know all the things he had endured, but there was a lot going on all at one time, and he just managed it with his staff and so forth. And hats off again to you, Chief. Thank you very much. I don't think other communities are as blessed to have that type of experience, town manager. So hats off to
Thank
Chief.
you.
And again, I think you brought it up, the town council, all the different departments here, but the town council, every one of us was doing something during this outage, and everyone has their expertise. And I just appreciate my fellow town council men and women to pitch in and really try to get us back on our feet. Thank you.
Sorry?
Yeah, I mean, what an experience. I hope I never have to go through it again. They say you learn from these things. Well, I want to forget. Anyway, we've all talked about the people who have gotten us through this, and it's an amazing feat. And I sat back there for many of the briefings and going over between departments and whatnot, and it was an amazing thing to see. And Chief Bundy, from first day I got in here, had things under control, and people were assigned and people got it done, and it was a machine that was well oiled. And I thank every one of you. I mean, Daniel, gosh, just a few hours put in. But one thing I want to, I always talk about the cocktail party rumors. And I'm getting phone calls from people that are crazy things. I mean, I got 2 phone calls today, because somebody must have mentioned it at breakfast this morning. 2 phone calls today that the town turned away FEMA. If you hear that, please tell people that is not the truth. I mean, why people say those things, why people dream them up or whatever, it's not true. And the other thing I heard was my question about the cash flow, was that town employees aren't getting paid. And that's not true. So please, if you hear these things, dispel them, stay off of social media. Don't engage social media, it's probably more correct. But this town is solid, And it starts from the top and works all the way down to the dog that we just introduced today. So, you know, I'm blessed to live in this town. I'm blessed to be in this seat. And we'll continue. We will be here. And, I mean, here's another thing which hasn't even been mentioned. Bob pulled together all the business owners yesterday and tried, you know, basically getting feedback from all the businesses, you know, of how we can move forward from this and how we can, you know, basically, you know, we're lucky. Like we said, Elk Park and those places are not so lucky. But we will have a ski season this year, all right? And we got to get that message out. And, you know, we're not trying to step over somebody who's more disadvantaged to us, but that's our livelihood. Our livelihood is tourism, and so we would have to make that happen, and Bob is pledged, and I believe this council's right behind him in making that happen. So spread that word also. Thank you.
Would you like to speak, Stafford?
Sure. So what Art just said, and Chief mentioned Memphis Task Force 1, which is a FEMA search and rescue task force. And I think a lot of the confusion is their mission was to come in and do a damage assessment, which they completed, and then they left. And so it wasn't that we turned FEMA around and told them to go home. It was they did their mission. That's what they're tasked to do. And they went on to do more damage assessments throughout Avery County, Watauga County, et cetera. You know, it's a little different for me, and I know Bob probably was ready to kick me out several times. And it wasn't that I was just trying to help. Because for me, my role is heavily what I used to do is emergency management built. And I said this during a staff meeting that, you know, our goal in emergency management is to get to yes. And we were not getting to yes, dealing with our county emergency operations centers, both Avery and Watauga. And I think really at the end of this, once we get settled and we, you know, they're still doing search and rescues, they're still doing recoveries all over the state. And once we get to a point where we can really look into and try to identify what the failure was, you know, I had contacts at the state level, and I'll disclose this, that were showing me the mission board within WebEOC, which is the state system of how resources are requested. And there was 2 missions for Beech Mountain. One was the comms package, which showed up, and thank God those guys were here when we had the problem with the tower the next day. And the second mission was to fly the guys out. And that's all that was on Ready Ops board for us at that time. And we, I know, had 8 other requests that had been made to the county level, which when the county can't fill a request, they push that to the state for the state to deal with it. And that wasn't happening. So the after action of this is big to me, and hopefully, if I'm allowed, I can have some involvement in trying to help figure out what the failure point was. I had a unique opportunity to go fly. Thanks to Jeff Burks, he brought in his personal aircraft. He got to fly into Elk River for the first time in 30 years, so that was an experience for him. I got to fly in and out of Elk River, which is really an experience.
With Jeff.
With Jeff, which, you know, if on Friday you saw a Cessna 172 doing weird maneuvers around the mountain, because the top of the mountain was fogged in and we weren't able to do a good grid pattern, but we were able to look. I can tell you that a lot of the photos I have, you can't tell that there's really any damage. The tree canopy's good. It doesn't look like a path of destruction. I can tell you on the other side of the mountain, Buckeye Road, pardon me, at Fall Creek Fire Station 2, it's destroyed. Like, you can see path of trees down and just the canopy's gone, and the landscape of the area around us is really changed forever, even though ours is still affected. You know, somebody asked me, well, what kind of number would you give to this? And you know, when it first started, I'm thinking like, this is 1989 in Hugo when I woke up. I was out doing the same thing our fire department did. I was clearing Providence Road between the Union County line and Highway 51 to get emergency vehicle access, to be able to get people in and out. You know, when I woke up and I had to clear my own road to be able to get out and respond. It took me like 4.5 hours, my little dead end street. Yeah, I thought it was really bad. And then when I was able to go up, when I was able to look at a little bit of TV, you know, to me, I rated Beech Mountain as a 2. I rated Banner Elk at about a 7, and I rated the rest of what I saw as a 10. It's really devastation below us and to the west. So thanks again to everybody who volunteered, everybody who did anything. We had my parking lot 4 cook crews here. We're still cooking food for Robbie's folks and giving them lunch every day so that they don't have to, you know, go find food and not be doing the work they needed to do. We did that with the Mountain Electric crew to keep them on the mountain. We fed them. So thanks for that, all the volunteers out there.
That was pretty cool that we had a grill parking lot 4, and anyone that was volunteering and working here on the mountain, work gets out quick when there's a hot meal. And I don't know who all cooked. I know Peter Perkins had his hands on it. Peter's a good cook. And there was a tremendous amount of food cooked for the volunteers, and it was nice that you coordinated that, Stanford.
I didn't coordinate it, they did.
It was nice you guys coordinated that.
I love great refrigerators.
Vice Mayor?
I'm always the last to go, so I just have to say ditto. And the other thing, when I was watching everything go down, is a thought came to my mind that everything on the internet is true, said Abraham Lincoln. So think about that when you start reading all this stuff on the internet.
Took me a while.
And thinking that it's true, because you have complete communication through us. Call us, don't start becoming a keyboard warrior. And the other word that came to mind was Mountain Strong. That's what we are. Beech Mountain Strong, there you go.
According to what Art said, I like stirring the pot. So if we kick FEMA off the mountain, if the employees didn't get paid, and you hear the conversations, that's what I heard too. Yeah, and then embellish it a little bit more. Make something else up. Let's just keep this thing going.
On that note, somebody asked me, did you get power? I said, yeah, I've had power since Thursday. How'd you get power? I said, I'm on the town council.
I don't have power.
I don't have power.
On a positive note, Captain Holland, how long has your family been on Beech Mountain?
Forever.
So, you know, Tim doesn't get a whole lot of recognition. He's kind of quiet. But
He's a young man.
Chief Putney recognized him a time or 2 for everything that he did. I'm not going to say he was his number 2 guy. Maybe he was his number 1.5 guy. I don't know. But it was a joint effort. But Tim definitely had his hands in on quite a lot of responsibilities. Also, if you're on the fire department, would you please stand? If you're on the fire department, will you please stand? And if you're a town employee, will you please stand? Okay, this concludes our meeting.
Oh, one more thing. Emily needs to be recognized. This lady here, she kept all these crazy people. Thank you.
So, let me just say about Emily, she's displaced. She's living in another state because her home is uninhabitable on Elk River. And she's been coming to work every day, all day, working, and she and her son and her family are displaced. So, you know, this is another employee that has made the town of Beech Mountain really important. So, Emily, thank you.
Elk Park is also, there's a few of our areas that are in need of heaters. They make a little small mini heater. I think it's called a buddy heater, and it takes the little Coleman, the green Coleman screw-ons. So if you guys are around the Lowe's or Home Depot or anywhere in the next 3 to 4 days, it's going to be, as you know, it's already getting chilly on Beech Mountain, and we got some folks in need. So if you're able to purchase one of these buddies, Where can they bring it to, Chief?
We'll facilitate it.
Okay, so.
Bring it here. Armando will take care of it.
Okay, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion?
All right. Thank you for everyone that attended.
How's Dave Clay?
Yeah.